So you talked about the rewards that a company or a retailer is giving the customer. And you mentioned that it's possible in the new Vow ecosystem to give rewards up to 100%. So how does it work?
Right. Not only isn't it possible, it's also inevitable. Um, and here's the reason why. There's two things, one that is simpler and one that's a little bit more complicated. The first is that um, the issuance of V dollars as a discount against a product costs the retailer nothing. Now, when I say cost, I mean it in the accounting sense, in that it isn't an expenditure, right? There's no expenditure involved, but there is an outlay of capital. In order to issue V dollars, a merchant has to go buy Vow, which means that they have to tie up some of their capital and hold it in Vow. So there is that sort of cost, but even though it's not an accounting cost per se. So from that sense, since the V dollars are really costless, then the merchant is incentivized to discount more heavily than the competitor, and that's easy to do when you're competing with someone who is not inside of the Vow ecosystem, right? So if you have a product that costs $100 and you have a margin of $20, meaning your cost basis is $80. Presumably, your competitor's cost basis is very similar. You can knock off $10, take a short profit at $10, and be competitive with him. But he can do the same. You can then knock it down by $20 and basically be making no money. And he could do that too. But now, because of Vow, you can actually knock it down $30. Now you're selling below cost, right? And your competitor can't do that because now he's losing money, but you're not. So all you need to do is lower your prices or discount deeply enough to be below your cost, and you'll kill the competition. Now, the competition finds out about Vow, right? They're looking at you going, what are those people doing? How can they do this? And the answers will go knock on their door and say, you know how those guys are eating your lunch? It's because they're on this system called Vow. So you can just join it, or you could die too. That's fine. And so they join it, and now they're on the same basis. So so if you're discounting 30%, they'll discount 35%, right? And so you discount 40% and they discount 50%. And eventually, this is an arms race. It's a race to the bottom, to the point where now you're discounting 100%, right? And the benefit is obvious to you as a consumer. Everything gets cheap, right? Everything becomes free. But there is another aspect of this which is even more powerful, which is the following. As I increase, as a merchant, as I increase my discounting capacity, I buy more Vow. Now, Vow is a fixed supply token, so the more merchants that buy Vow, the higher the price of Vow, right? So if I bought Vow at $1 a token, and I put in $100, and all of a sudden Vow goes up to $2 a token, I'm sitting on $200 worth of asset, right? So this fact is not particularly interesting to the chief marketing officer, but it is of great interest to the chief financial officer, because he says, oh, we had to acquire this asset sitting there on the balance sheet for marketing reasons I don't understand or don't care about, but look at what it's doing. My God, it's amazing, right? And pretty soon they start to understand that the reason it's going up in price is because a whole bunch of merchants are buying it. And in fact, their very own purchases of Vow cause it to go up. And so the inevitable conclusion is, gosh, we need to get more of this asset, right? We need to just load up on it, because for two reasons. One is we're going to need it in the future to discount more stuff. And the other is just because it helps the balance sheet, right? It makes us profitable. So at that point, another realization comes into play, which is that the increase in capital, in the capital value of that position, can be used to offset any losses in the operating side. So the more Vow that you have, and the faster that it's going up, the more deeply you can discount. And as a matter of fact, you get to a point where, let's say that you're a bike shop, right? And so you have a certain amount of volume. Let's say that you have 10% of the market in your little area, in your little region, right? And through Vow, you've managed to put everyone out of business, so you now have 100% of the market. But 100% of the market is, I don't know, 3 bicycles, a day for sale, or 10 or 100, whatever it is, right? There's only so many. There's only so many bike riders, so there's only so much business. So what happens is that you are now at a point where you're discounting every bike that you sell and every helmet that you sell and everything that you sell 100%, right? Which is great for business. That means that people are buying more stuff from you and all this, but you're not really growing the base of guys who want to go on a bicycle, right? Me, I would rather ride a motorcycle. So I'm never going to buy a bicycle, right? No matter how much they discount it, I'm just not going to buy a bicycle, right? So the size of their universe is of a certain limit. And now it turns out that they have so much Vow, and the Vow has grown so much in value that they're actually wasting discount capacity. They could discount more, but they're already discounting 100%. They could discount more if they had more volume, if they had more business, but they just can't manufacture the business, right? And so that opens up the possibility for them to take some of their Vow and essentially lend it to other merchants who perhaps have capital requirements issues, would like to discount more, but they don't have the cash in hand to go buy the Vow, so they can lend it, and then they can share the yield from that, right? So there's all these dynamics in this, but essentially the merchants will benefit incredibly from their positions in Vow. And I should mention that it isn't just the merchants, the customers too, because what happens with a customer is he receives his 10 V dollars in his wallet, and he looks at the price of Vow and it says, oh, it's 50 cents, right? And then he receives another $10 V dollars from some other purchase, and he looks at the price of Vow and it says, oh, it's $1. So what he does is he says, well, let me just press this button right here and put my V dollars into Vow, right? Because why am I sitting on V dollars? Those aren't going up, and I'm not going to spend them right now. So he puts them into Vow, and now he has the same experience that the merchant has. Oh my God, Vow is going up so much, and it's because I'm buying it. It's because everybody else is buying it. And so now I'm really much more interested in just putting everything that I've got into Vow, right? I'm going to go and have a garage sale and sell these old chairs that I didn't need, and this old car that has been sitting around, wasted. And eventually you sell things that you don't, sell everything you don't need. You take your savings and you put them into Vow. You take your 401ks and your retirement plans, you put them into Vow, and you become wealthy along with the merchants. So I think that a lot of dynamics are going to change in the world once Vow starts to take effect, because the most immediate thing that will happen is there will be an immediate benefit to that little old lady in Ohio who can't afford both food and medicine, right? She'll go buy her medicine and she'll have these V dollars and say, my God, I can actually afford some food. That's wonderful. As this level continues to increase, she will have additional money, and she'll think about her grandchildren. She'll say, oh, wow, I'm really doing well now. I have all this extra money, and I'm going to start a college fund for my grandson, right? Where I'm going to send him gifts. So you'll see that kind of spreading of benefit. There's 3/4 of a planet out there that can benefit from knowledge and from this stimulus. Now that brings us to ESG, right? That brings us to the issues of environmental damage, which I think are also huge and need to be discussed in the face of this additional productivity. And the answer to that is that we have been hampered in our efforts to do good things for the planet by the people who are currently running things. There is an island the size of Queensland floating out there in the Pacific north of Hawaii worth of garbage. And birds are eating the garbage and fish are eating the garbage. And there is no sustenance for them in this stuff, and they die full of plastic, right? That is an absolute abhorrence. We bear that responsibility, and we must clean it up. We must clean it up, but we don't have the money to do it, right? Well, Vow will produce the money to go clean it up, right? We can do much better. I mean, just look at the Dutch. The Dutch are really smart people. They live in this postage size of a country, and yet they are the second largest producer of food in the world, second only to the United States, because we have huge amounts of land, right? They produce more food than Ghana does, which is 13 times its size, and is entirely agricultural. Why? Because they're really smart. They figured out which specific frequencies of light benefit these plants. There's 2 frequencies that benefit plants. They figured out how to prevent the bugs, how to keep the right temperatures. We can use that kind of intelligence to feed much, much larger numbers of people in a way that is completely sustainable for the planet.